Hey, greetings everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Coming at you tonight with a little bit more on the narrowcasting as it relates to broadcasting, the video I did Friday night. So before we get started, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button for me if you would. There's PayPal links down below for anybody that wants to share some love. And of course, the StreamYard link is pinned for anybody that wants to join the panel. And basically, let me see what my notes are here. Where did I put? The broadcasting and narrowcasting as we're looking at it in modern times. And what we're looking at there is I've got a link posted down below. Let me grab that real quick. Let's see here, which one? This one. And I'm going to pull that up on screen so everybody can see what's going on here. Because this is something I found after I did my video Friday night. And I know I'm not the greatest at explaining things, so when I ran across this, I thought this is pretty good. And so there's a link down in the details section for anybody that wants to click on this and do their own reading on it. But it gives us talks to us about the broadcasting and narrowcasting and what it's about. And it starts off by in marketing, distributing your content to a broad audience in the hopes of persuading a tiny percentage to convert is not a particularly effective strategy. So this is why we're talking about when we broadcast, we're throwing our information out there in a broad manner. And today's narrowcasting is a much more efficient and proficient method of marketing. And this is why we're talking about broadcasting and narrowcasting, is because it's all about marketing. And today, our marketing system is electronic. Instead of having a newspaper where we receive information, or TV where we receive information, but we don't have any input back out into that environment, that's broadcasting to us, and it's about all they could do. So they put it on ABC, NBC, CBS, and whoever saw those was the market. Today on this internet, we've got the ability to have an input into that very broadcasting system. So when we put our information out there in this whole system, we're doing the broadcasting, and that allows everybody that's in that system, and that we're talking about the internet. It's all the things in that one big net, that commercial net that requires marketing. So when you broadcast into that, there's all kinds of things in that that are going to reach out and throw little lures to catch that information. Like I said, with the circus duck game, you know, you got a little fishing pole and it's got a little magnet on it. You pick up a duck and you look in the bottom and there's your prize. And it all varies. But they're trying to pick out certain specifics for their marketing strategies. And the more you fulfill them by putting out more information out into this internet, the more you're going to get fished. So let's continue on a little bit. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the link is down there for anybody that wants to check it out and read the whole thing. It's going to tell you about the same thing that we're talking about Friday night, and hopefully it's going to do a much more give you a much clearer comprehension. It says, although it can be tempting to spray and pray, aiming to please everyone has never yielded positive results. And this is a problem with democracy. The modern marketer must be savvier to break through the clutter and generate interest and relevance among prospective customers. This is the same for you people when you're on this metaverse. When you're putting that in, you must be savvy to generate interest and relevance to yourself for other people that you're trying to attract, or know that if you don't want to attract them, then you don't put that information out there. Okay. It's possible to capture their attention with entertaining or inspirational content. Still, it's time to move past the high-level brand video and commit to directing your message at specific audience subgroups. You're going to narrow down, instead of casting to the entire big group, you're going to narrow down to certain specific subgroups. The secret to increasing audience engagement and conversion is narrowing your material. And that's the basic strategy I'm talking about when we're dealing with this public environment of political subdivisions and commerce and all of this. We have to be able to narrow down what we're going to invest in and what it is we're going to invest in that. In doing that, we have to know our own value and what the value is of what we're doing. We literally have to learn how to protect ourselves. This environment that we're looking at here, this electronic environment, allows us to become more comprehensive ourselves of what's going on out there. This is a massive library to teach us everything we want to know. And that's why it's important to do your own research. And this forum, the way it works now in this modern times, is you have so many venues that you can research for the same topic, so you get a diverse set of views and opinions that you can better discern for yourself how it applies to you, if it does. This all comes down to your plenipotentiary powers in being able to broadcast, narrowcast, journal, and tell people who you are, rather than let some fictional record pose some kind of defamation or anything. Let me see what else I got here. Much like the merger of equity with common law, the world today now has the same type of merger with these devices. These devices provide us with the ability, like I said, it's a massive library. So it provides us an ability to gain the knowledge. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And what that does, without knowledge, we aren't able to comprehend and develop a remedy for our own problems. We can't create a solution. And just like equity and common law in the merger there, equity merged with common law because there are certain situations in common law that it doesn't provide for a fair and just outcome. And equity provides that it seeks to do justice and not by halves. So that means it's fair for all parties all around. There are certain situations where somebody can't get remedy in that common law because they're restricted to oaths and licenses, or the true crime is outside of the common law, or something like that. So what we got is this environment that allows us to gain all of that knowledge, put it into experience so we can gain the wisdom from that knowledge. This is our ability to go forth and heal thyself, create our own remedies. And it's important to do that. We have to be in image and likeness We have to be able to resolve situations, create remedies. We are creators. So the next one I wanted to speak on was, oh yeah, when we talk about this merger, we have our own real life going on in this environment. As I sit here in my perspective, my subjective view of my physical environment, and I'm able to portray it over this device. Okay, that's the equity and merger that I'm talking about, because you get to have your real and personal effects. This device can't literally, or can only show you my private effects in a literal sense. You can't have the firsthand physical sense of my reality unless you're right here with me. So through this device, there's a fictional thing that's going on, and it's just an effect. It's a personal effect that happens at the same time of my real effect. This is everything I own. It's part of me. Why not use it appropriately in both being able to broadcast and narrowcast? While things that I need everybody to know about me are broadcast, and when I'm looking for specific associations, I can look specifically here and there. So when I turn on YouTube and I hit that live button, I can go through and I'm looking specifically for lives. If I hit a search key, I'm looking for that's narrowcasting. You're narrowing your search down. So let's take a look at the next one. And again, before I continue, I want to remind everybody I appreciate all your support. I really do. So please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's PayPal links down below for anybody that wants to share some love. And of course, the StreamYard link is there for anybody that wants to jump up on panel. So when we're talking about these real and personal effects, it's like I said, it's everything that has to do with me. And this is in Black's Law, 4th edition. It says the words real and personal effects will embrace the whole estate. So in that, if we think about it, anything we do on these devices that has some kind of personal effect because of our real actions, it has to do with our estate. So if we really want certain things to be private, that onus probandi is on us. So we have to become more aware of this metaverse and all the devices that we use on it. For instance, say you got Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and Rumble and YouTube and all these different social platforms, and you've got the laptop and the desktop and a doodle pad or whatever, and a phone, or maybe a couple phones. You got multiple devices and they're all synced. So it's very important to remember at all times what you're putting into all these devices. And in that, I want you to realize that you can construct those synchronizations in such a way so that one phone has an ID here, the other phone has a different ID, just like the YouTube channels I'm creating, 18 different profiles. They're all going to have different identifications. So it's very important, just like guys that have classic cars, a lot of them ask them, they name their cars. It's a wise thing to start learning how to name the things that you own, but learn how to put them in order. This is keeping your houses in order. Your houses, your personalities. So that's in Black's Law 4th. The words real and personal effects will embrace the whole estate. And that says it's from Hogan versus Jackson. And I believe these are in the detail section down below. And then it also says, and heir to the Supreme Court of the state of Washington. It's a certiorari to heir to the Supreme Court. A court of probate in the exercise of its jurisdiction over the probate of wills and administration of estates of deceased persons, has no jurisdiction to appoint an administrator of the estate of a living person. Okay. So first of all, I want to point out that's that real and personal effects. If they're talking about personal effects and they're going to administrate your personal effects, how is that if you're still alive? Aren't you the one that administered them to begin with? So it's truly your, not just your the fact that you're the one that put it out there and it's your right, but it's your responsibility. What you put out comes back. So take it back, fix it up, and do what you're supposed to with it. Real and personal effects. If you learn to do this before you put it out there, then you don't have so many messes to clean up. The second thing I want to point out, it says deceased persons. And when you cease and desist, then the person is deceased. You created an estoppel. That is what deceased means. There's an estoppel. So when a man deceased, there's an estoppel to the man. He's no longer taking your breath of life. He stopped in his character as a man. The only thing that's left to be recorded about that man is that he's now deceased. In memory of. The next one, it says, oh, and so if a court of probate of wills and administration of estates of deceased persons. So what they're doing is they're talking about administrating an estate. And like I said, I don't know, you would have to ask other people in the chat if I'm breaking up. I'm doing the best I can here. I might have to get a microphone and stuff to do this, but we're on a very small budget, you know. So hit that PayPal link and share some love if you can help. Otherwise, I hope I can only do the best I can here. So back to it, as it goes to the administration of the estate. Who appoints the administrator? Certainly not the administrator himself. You cannot, you can't just appoint yourself. There is a process. And so what I want people to realize in this thing that has to do with equity. Equity is an ancient judicial system. Let's see here. It says, originating in England, by which courts apply principles of general fairness in situations where application of the common law would bring about injustice. If a man kills his neighbor, and the common law says that eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, we have to kill that man. We're going to put him in prison and sentence him to death. But in killing that man, you leave behind a woman and an infant child. Is it really equity to take that man away from those two people? Or is it truly fair to create some kind of contractual obligation in common law, a remedy where that man can become servitude, like slavery, but bonded servitude to help his neighbor now? And that means an involvement with his family and his, his wife and his child to make sure that he can maintain that in a spiritual sense. Otherwise, as soon as he breaks that contract, now he's able to fall full force. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So, equity serves to bring about a creation of remedy where we can use a moral aptitude to say, okay, well, according to his past behavior, he's never broken the law before, and it was out of a fit of emotion or something, rather than opposed to somebody that's grown up in a life of crime and committed crime after crime after crime that just continuously built and built until finally started killing people. There's a different solution. Yeah, common law might say eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and find that equitable, as equity does follow the law. So again, when we're putting this stuff out into this metaverse, I urge you to be very careful. If you think that signing your name on a document has done what it's done to you so far, you're not quite prepared what it is that this metaverse can do to you psychologically. So I keep telling people, you got to be aware this is all false. It's all based on comments, which are written or spoken, that are inventions, fabrications, and fictions. You can never experience my reality through this device. It's something different. But again, like I said, it can bring a form of equity. You can use this as a way to create remedies for your situations without even having to go to court. That's what equity is about. It's a court of equity, but it's not dealing with the court system. It's all a private communication. That's your court, the four corners of the paper. Let me see here what everybody's got to say. Narrowcasting is a psyop. Well, yeah, it's a psychological operation. You're absolutely right. It is a psychological operation. That's what I'm saying. It's an advertisement thing. If you're looking for something specific, say you're looking for a snowblower. You don't advertise in the middle of summertime that you're looking for a snowblower, though they might be cheap. You would narrowcast yourself to maybe garage sales and stuff like that and look for them that are being advertised. But you yourself wouldn't advertise that you're looking for a snowblower. You would just keep your eye out. This is the same thing as a fisherman that's used to his local area. He keeps his eye out and keeps track of the season when certain things start budding and when things start happening to determine what he's going to fish for, when, and what he's going to use for a lure and what the weather is. They're all very different little narrowcast parts that once you start roping them together, it creates a pretty good bond that you know what you're doing, and it's going to be able to prevent anything from breaking, that your intent is going to be met. So, and that's why it says, equity imputes in the intent to fulfill an obligation. If you're going to create something, you have to realize what you created and your obligation to that intent. And let's see that last one about the administrator of a probate of wills and administration of estates of deceased persons has no jurisdiction to appoint an administrator of the estate of a living person is Scott versus McNeil. That's also in the details section down below. There's a link to that one as well. So you have a link to the Black's Law Fourth Dictionary where you can look up that term, and that's a valid link that I would hope you would a valid site that you would I hope you would go ahead and download and keep as a source, because that's what these people use in their common law courts of case law. Black's Law Fourth. So when we're looking at these courts of probate, and like I said, who appoints the administrator then? This is the clerk. The clerk is the judicial officer. Okay, remember, the Judicial Officer Department is a neutral and independent forum within the United States Postal Service, comprising of the judicial officer, the administrative law judge who must be appointed, and therefore it must be the judicial officer that's running the financial books. That's the clerk. And the subject matter is contracting, because it also includes the Postal Service Board of Contract Appeals. So if it's about contracting, then it's about a trustee position for public service. Pure and simple. It can't get any simpler than that. So when it comes to even administrating a probated estate, once a man steps up and says, hey, that name is a derivative of my spiritual breath, or however you want to express it, and make sure that they understand the clarification that you're the benefactor to the beneficiary, which is the words, which are the inventions, fabrications, and fictions, which come from you as a principal. Because without you, they'd have never been able to use that name and then enumerate it for their record keeping. I don't need to start numbering down records and pages to keep my own journal. I can write it on a page after page after page, and you can just continue reading it. It doesn't have to have enumerations. It doesn't have to have chapters. It doesn't even have to have dates. So again, just another, one more thing that talks about, being very careful of what you're putting out into this stuff. Device is your new post office. It's where you get to post everything, and you are the postmaster. You're the one that's supposed to master what you're posting. And in order to master what you're posting, you have to know how to marshal your posts. Marshal meaning put in order. What do you think their monetary system's about? It's about promissory notes and orders. One's a note. If it's a note, it's a promise. If it's an order, it's a draft. What do you think the military draft is? Do they have the ability to give you an order unless you first applied somehow? Very careful what you're posting, moms and dads, particularly. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, I'm going to pull my screen up again. And this man his name is Lysander Spooner. And as I was talking about post office and everything that you post, everything that you post has to have some kind of intent, whether you know it or not. There's going to be an intent discerned out of it. So again, it's very reasonable and logical to think about what you're putting out there so that you make sure it goes by your intent, and that your intent is the goodwill. That's the free will to do that which is good. And in Lysander Spooner, we're going to point out some things through history that I hope will connect some dots here, because again, it relates to broadcasting and narrowcasting as to what your talents are and all of your various different skills and how you market yourself. Lysander Spooner was an American abolitionist, entrepreneur, lawyer, essayist, natural rights legal theorist, pamphletist. A pamphlet is an unbound book. Political philosopher, Unitarian, and writer, often associated with the Boston anarchist tradition. Does that sound a lot like other people in history, like maybe Benjamin Franklin? George Washington? All kinds of people in our history have been multi-talented. These are known as plenipotentiary powers, being able to govern yourself, because you don't need a secretary to write things down. You put out your own pamphlets. You don't need a psychologist to tell you how to think, because you're your own political philosopher. You don't need a lawyer, because you're your own attorney and natural rights legal theorist. You don't need a business financial guy because you're an entrepreneur. You know how things work and you know how to develop things that catch interest and put values in them. Although the notion of Spooner as an anarchist has been challenged by legal historian Clay S. Conrad, who pointed out that Spooner advocated constitutionally limited governments. Constitutionally limited governments. That's exactly what that Constitution does. It limits the government. Article 10 of the Bill of Rights tells us the powers not delegated to the United States, nor in the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are therefore reserved respectively to the states and the people. Who do you think the United States gets their power from first? The people. The people delegated their powers to the states that they were born in as trustees, and they granted a beneficial United States. Every one of those state constitutions agree with the Constitution of the United States. That's equal consideration. It's a contract. The states had to get together consecutive or together and concur on the same concept to draw up the United States Constitution. So that element of constituting themselves as a unit of states among other units of states to create the United States of America. Now they have United States, which is a corporation that runs the maritime side of the Admiralty institution. Admiralty is the federal government, means all entities of the government of the United States. The government of the United States is the commercial entities. So the federal government means all commercial entities of the United States, including the United States Postal Service, who is the registered agent already for the International Global Postal Trust Services, the International Post Office. So let's continue reading. Spooner was a strong advocate of the labor movement, anti-authoritarian and individualist anarchism. Again, the same view I have, that each one of us has to stand up in our anarchy and prove ourselves able to govern ourselves. And again, anarchy doesn't mean standing up with arms and killing people, because you need to prove that that's how you self-govern. That's lunacy. Again, we're talking about equity, a sort of equality, being able to step up in the same capacity as a full government as one individual and say, I can do everything the whole government does. I have as much power in my index finger as the entire government, because the entire government is dependent on my signature. Without it, it gets none of my political views, none of my commercial views, none of my anything. On this metaverse, you leave digital signatures all over. They don't need a wet ink signature. The digital signature is your character traits, your personalities. Protect them. His economic and political ideology has been identified by some scholars: libertarian socialism, left libertarianism, free market socialism, and mutualism. So they've got all kinds of categories they can try to name him. These are ad hominems, while he's just merely presenting a concept. This is what almost everybody does. They will try to limit your conceptualization by using ad hominems to take you off of that theory or point, while others identify them as right libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, and proprietarianists. So they got 7 different things they're going to call this guy for this one concept of being able to self-govern. According to anarchist George Woodcock, Spooner was the member of the International Working Men's Association, First International. His writings contributed to the development of both left libertarian and right libertarian. So both parties were able to take from him points of view for their as their perspective. Lysander Spooner also influenced mutualist associates. So there we have the mutualism too. Okay. As Clarence Lee Swartz, who cited him as one of the major liberty advocates in history and a pioneer of mutual banking and competition instead of central banking. What is mutual banking? That's where each community can create its own banking system and bank mutually among and with each other, establishing their own weights and measures according to their own local culture and agriculture products. That's a more self-determined community. It's more centralized in that aspect. Spooner's writings include the abolitionist book, The Unconstitutionality of Slavery, and No Treason, the Constitution of No Authority. And that's what he's talking about. It gives them no authority. What it does is it tells them their limitations. And it also opposes treason charges against secessionists, people that determine that they no longer want to be part of the Constitution. They're thrown in jail and stuff and charging them with all kinds of bullshit crimes, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. Just because somebody changes their political views doesn't mean they don't have the right to express them. Granted, January 6th, I don't believe those people should have been going into that White House in any manner. We have a much greater platform if you know how to broadcast and narrowcast. Do you hear me now? Spooner is also known for competing with the post office with his American Letter Mail Company. Also known for competing with the post office with his American Letter Mail Company. However, it was closed after legal problems with the federal government. This is what I'm telling you about, folks. That Constitution of the Universal Postal Union allows every nation a postal monopoly. You cannot come together as an association and try to provide a posting. It's already there, right before you. This is our connection. This is where we make it right. This is where we get our opportunity to put in the truth. It's like Eminem. If you tell them all the bad shit, can they use anything more about you? Can they tell anybody else anything extra about you? No. So why worry about that bullshit? Start putting your story out there like you're supposed to. You're not evil. You're not dislocates. You're not desolate children. You're not mischievous. Some of you are, but you don't have that in your heart. And if you don't, then start making sure that's the message that comes across. He who seeks equity must first come with equity. He who falls into equity must first do equity. Equity imputes an intent to fulfill an obligation. If you really want people to know you as a good man, then that's your intent. Then fulfill that obligation. Anyway, wanted to point out the importance of doing your research in this broadcasted net. known as the World Wide Web, the internet. It has everything you need to learn psychologically who you are, so that then you can know thyself and heal thyself. Again, the very basic principles of everything in this world, if you want to gain respect and then the prosperity. You have to build yourself first. In building yourself, make sure you're not destroying it by putting little bits and pieces out there that other people can use against you. Be very wary of any kind of credit card information you're putting on these devices, particularly if you've got shit synced. Somebody gets into one device and you got one bit of it, now they got all of it because you broadcast it on all of your devices. It's kind of like going out on an open bay, and instead of using one fishing pole, now you've got 10 or however many devices you've got that you've got synced up. Your family network at home. Then you go to the library and you use your phone that's hooked up to your family network, and it's hooked up to the library network too. You think maybe that library network might be able to cross that connection to your home. The tracking is amazing, folks, at the Federal Communications Commission. It's already secured. In that environment, the onus is now on you to make sure that what goes out there isn't going to come back to harm you. It's only going to go out, reflect, and come back as a positive. This is the anode and cathode part. So think about it, folks. And remember, I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back or not. But if you do, hit that PayPal link. Help me get a new mic and everything. Whatever you want. I don't care. Every little bit counts. And it's all connecting together to try to make things positive and more prosperous for each other. So in that, may God bless you and have a good night. Bye now.